morning, everyone. Sorry, if I sit down, I can't talk properly, so I'm always better sitting up. So today I'm going to talk about the Claris vision that we have and then the future of the platform. Very nicely, I've got a screen in front of me which lets me figure out a way to speak slowly because I tend to speak quickly. So I'll make an effort to speak slowly so that you can understand my great French accent. So my name is Douglas Wallis. I have a strange title, which is Claris Platformu'nun Evangelist. What we do, there's two of us in the company. There is someone called Reed Kalman, that's been in the company for almost 30 years, and myself. And what we do is we travel the world, we go and see customers, and we try to bring the nice word of Claris to everyone that actually likes what we do. So I'm going to give you an overview of what we talked at Claris Engage in March in the US, and give you an idea of where Claris is going, the work that we're doing around AI and tools within FileMaker to make your life more easier as developers. So let's start with basically the always the slide. Claris is an Apple company. Everything we do is being vetted by Apple. We are control on the IT side, so everything that is servers that we use, the cloud that we build, Connect, Studio, everything that we do is being vetted by Apple. So a lot of things that we do has to be validated by the home company. We have customers globally in every type of market, which is one of our strengths. And it means that because we are in every market, we have partners globally that do a lot of things for us. And the big advantage that we have are the partners within the community, because working with us, they can do some great projects. Hence, we have a lot of customers, and then we create a massive ecosystem. So this year, we are celebrating 40 years of Claris, which is an achievement in itself. And it's kind of a nice achievement because if you look at the software world nowadays, companies that have been around for 40 years in IT, they aren't many, especially in software. You can name pretty much three on the market. Essentially, you've got Microsoft, Adobe, you've got Claris, but then it's kind of hard to actually figure out the ones that have been there for such a long time. So even though people think that we are dated, actually that's not the case. We're just basically a strong company that has a powerful technology behind it. So what we said within FileMaker, this is pretty much all the boxes of FileMaker version that actually came out in the last 40 years. One other thing that, even though it's a nice picture and it's celebrating what we've done, we do find that most of the developers that we have in the events that we go to, whether it's in Turkey, in the US, in France, in Spain, pretty much everywhere, we have a lot of people on the first line. They started using FileMaker a long time ago and actually stayed with it. In terms of new developers that have actually started using it to build their businesses, on the second line and the third line, the number gets to actually be cut down. We still have new people, but not as many as we want. So we try to actually sort of work on the idea that we have a shared journey between what we've done 40 years ago to where we are now. Essentially, we've done everything we can to actually bring you those advanced technologies to the platform so that you can use them on a daily basis to create the apps that you have, whether you're internal developers or outside developers. And every time there's been a new technology, we made the effort to actually adapt it to the platform as quickly as we could. So this is the space we live in, which we call the workplace operating system. Essentially, you have apps that use FileMaker, in a lot of cases internally, and then the idea that we're having with the new tools that we're building around Claris Studio and Claris Connect is to allow that data to be actually sent to external users, so people that actually don't work in your company but need access to your system. The one thing that's really made a change in the vision of Claris is the work that we do for you. So what we do is we build the tools so that you can actually create the solutions for your end customers. We talk about that all the time, but we keep on actually making sure people have this real vision of what we do. We just create a platform so that you can actually create the apps for the end users. So this is a slide that we will show. It was created by a lecturer at Stanford University around the invention cycle. And we do find that all FileMaker developers have this same sort of cycle. They have the imagination to actually create the app. They have the creativity to be able to do the design, the scripts, the backend system. The innovation to incorporate new technology really quickly in the system once it's basically available to the market. And as an entrepreneur, you know how to sell it, you know to actually promote that and create more out of that. So there is the next wave that is coming. It's actually here now. It's coming fast and furious, and we're going to basically have a adapt to it and make sure we can leverage that easily with FileMaker. But before I go to sort of basically talking about this next wave, the way we actually sort of know the market is going to evolve on the FileMaker world and the Claris platform in general is through the idea of real-world use cases. It's a lot easier to be able to actually get someone to understand what you build, what you do with technology, if you have use cases of how it's being used on the market. So the idea basically is we've been talking about digital information. It's a thing that every company across the globe has to do. Is essentially take paper process system and actually take them to the computers and make sure people can actually use it. And what we want to create out of the case studies is actually this vision. The going is a company has a problem, they start leveraging the Claris platform, they fix one problem. Once the one problem is actually being fixed, they move on to the next one and on and on. And that's how you make the Claris platform that work-based OS. And one of the things we want to do is revamp part of the website that we have around case studies, is to be able to actually, instead of actually just talking about the technology, which in some cases is actually kind of boring for other people, we want to showcase what's been available to do on the market and what other companies have actually sort of done. The plan that we have is essentially recreate what we have on our website around case studies, based on industries and location. What we've done for a couple of years now, actually quite a few years now, essentially since COVID, was to actually do global stories. So we create a story from a company based either in the US, in Japan, in the UK, and actually try to sell it across the globe. The problem in the case is it doesn't work because every market is different. If I was to try to sell a story of a Japanese company that does stuff specifically for the Japanese market, when I'm talking to Turkish customers, it has no meaning for them in most cases because it's not something they can actually relate to. So the work that we do in Claris with partners is to find use cases in those countries. So we've been working with Winsoft. There's a couple of cases that we have. So there's one in India, there's a few cases, and the idea is to be able to create use cases globally, but basically specifically for countries, and actually start selling solutions made in those countries. So we're going to do stuff like for the French market, we're going to do stuff around music festivals and cinema festivals, because there's a lot of them out there. We'll work stuff in Turkey as well. Basically, the idea is to be able to actually do that globally. So this is kind of the mock-up of what the new site will actually look at. It's been worked on, and there'll be sort of stories in every type of environment. The idea as well that when we have new case studies, we can basically attract new developers to the community and new customers. And the importance of actually having new customers is always good for partners and for us, because the idea is to actually be able to make money. But once you have new customers and you attract new partners, you've got to figure out a way to get new developers. The biggest problem that we have in the FileMaker community is the age of our developers. Apart from the two young kids that I've seen there, pretty much everyone is above, I would say, 30, 35 is the youngest we have in the room. In other cases, we have people in the mid-40s, early 50s, late 60s, so there is a community that basically is aging. So we have to find ways to be able to actually sort of get new kids. We could basically give FileMaker to the whole planet free of charge and hope it sticks, but that doesn't work. We've tried it. We have universities in Switzerland, especially the one in Zurich, so the ETH. It's one of the biggest universities in Switzerland. 26,000 students have access to FileMaker. They don't do anything with it. They might do a bit of coding, but they don't actually want to become FileMaker developers. So just giving the stuff away doesn't work. You have to actually have a relationship with university, with the academy, to be able to understand, for them to understand what is actually going in the FileMaker world. So Apple basically a couple of years ago, actually sort of 7 years ago, created something they call the Apple Developer Academy. It's basically a partnership between Apple, a university, or an academy. The first one that was created essentially in Brazil, Indonesia. 7 years ago, they created one in Naples, Italy. There's a few in the US. They've got one in Saudi Arabia now, South Korea. It's growing basically globally. And we got invited to actually go to the Apple Academy in Naples because in the, so it's a 2-year course. The second year students, so the first year we have about 350 students from pretty much everyone on the planet. And the second year students, there's only 60 students. They stay for 1 year. And they work on projects with NGOs. So Apple has been able to actually find NGOs that have need of custom apps. And the idea is for the student to learn how to build apps for those customers and how to actually learn Swift. So year 1, they learn Swift. Then year 2, they have to actually leverage that technology, that knowledge to build apps. And 6 years ago, what happened was one of the customers that they had was called Ubuntu Pathways, which is an NGO in South Africa, that had a need to create an app. They had worked for about 5-6 years on the FileMaker app, but they had no talent inside the company to be able to create the app. So they approached the academy and we put students with the NGO to start working on an application. Luckily enough, in the group of 6, there was one student from Naples, from Milan, who used to work for an Apple reseller and knew FileMaker. So they started working together. And after 6 years, what came out of it was like, well, learning Swift is really nice, but then it's really hard to build custom apps. Whereas FileMaker is actually a lot easier to actually sort of get into. And because you kind of play with everything at the same time, you're kind of in the business world right away, because you have to understand how databases work, you've got to understand how design works, business logic, how the company works. So it forces you to actually really understand the business's needs. Since then, we've had really good sort of progress with it, because a couple of years ago, we were getting quite a lot of students moving into FileMaker developer jobs. We have one essentially partner in the Italian company, but they have offices in the UK and the US, who's been basically employing those students to actually come and work with them as either just pure FileMaker developers, but others are becoming product managers, but they know the FileMaker world, so they're not coders, but they know how to actually sell FileMaker and stuff like that. And the idea is to be able to actually sort of grow that, so that we can grow the amount of new developers coming to the market and see how it's working. So we work really closely with them, so we just don't want to get them to actually start playing with FileMaker. We want them to understand that there's a career, and it's a long career that they can actually have with that. So let's talk about AI. So AI nowadays is pretty much the word that everyone uses. I'll be specific basically in what we call generative AI, because AI has been around for about 30 years. I mean, if you look at Google, it's basically AI is just an algorithm. But we're going to talk about the part that is actually what everyone's talking about nowadays, which is generative AI. The idea that basically is we want to point out is we know our developers will be able to actually leverage AI kind of quickly because they have that knowledge that I was talking about. You understand databases, you understand scripting, you understand automation, you understand business logic. Everything that basically the AI is going to do for you quicker, you actually know what it's doing. So you're not really basically going to use AI to do your work for yourself. You're going to use AI to actually improve the work that you're doing by doing it quicker. But you're still going to be able to actually sort of take exactly what you want. So this is basically what we're building for you. We're building basically AI so that you can use it within FileMaker, within Studio, within Connect, and we're building it in partnership with Apple. So like every company, Apple is building its own large language model to be able to actually process data. The idea is for the two of us to work together so that we can build all those products for you. We've been a leader, pretty much, we've been a leader in custom development for small and medium businesses. So basically, essentially when we say SMB for us, it's pretty much any company starting from 1 to 2 employees all the way to vaguely 100 employees. And so the importance of AI is to be able to actually bring it inside, first of all, inside of Claris, so that it's easy for you to use. We don't want you to become AI nerds and trying to figure out how everything works. We need to be able to actually bring inside the FileMaker the tools that you're going to be able to actually use quite quickly. So the strategy that we have at Claris around AI is in two phases. Phase one, which we're working on now, is around augmenting your solution. It's how we give you the tools so that you can get better data insights from your solutions. It's not basically there to replace you as a FileMaker developer or business users. Our first idea is to really help you to get better insights out of the data. The second part, around enhancements of productivity, is to give you tools to be able to actually do the daily tasks that you do in FileMaker quickly. So the idea is to use AI to be able to create new layouts for you, to be able to verify whether your script is actually going to work properly by doing user testing in the background for you, to be able to create mock data, to be able to actually test your solutions. And that will come later next year. So the work that we do basically is we work around those 5 pillars. The idea is we have to actually bring whether they're action script steps, whether they're functions, whether they're tools within the FileMaker server part, and everything, to be able to actually give you better control over your solution. So if we look at basically the data access, essentially is how we actually sort of get you to be able to play around with your data in FileMaker and then an LLM on the side. So large language model that's going to understand the data inside your FileMaker solution and be able to actually do other things. In the FileMaker 2024 version that we released last year, we introduced a new type of searching which is called semantic search. So semantic search, if you haven't tried it, and I can do a quick demo afterwards, is essentially the context. You're not looking for specific keywords in index, you're looking for the context around the words that you're looking for, which means through asking a questions to the engine, it's going to give you the result based on the similarity between your request and what you're looking for. And the way we're building it is that we're doing it in a way that it's really straightforward to use. Essentially, you're creating vector embeddings, and then you're hooking between a large language model and embeddings, so representation of your data in terms of dimensions, and then actually be able to do queries with that. Which means that we have to actually get the execution engine, so where the search is being done, to be quicker, more powerful, but then we're increasing the amount of power we give to the engine. So we've done a lot of work on making the JSON environment a lot quicker, the whole engine behind FileMaker a lot quicker. When we talk about reasoning, is essentially is where you're going to send the data. One of the things that we always say at Claris is we don't really sort of want to choose for you where you're going to do that work. If you want to do it in the cloud, you can. If you want to do it on your servers, you can. We're not limiting ourselves. So we have to create both worlds. So if you want to use OpenAI as an LLM, you can. If you want to use your own servers, your own system, if you want to use a local server running on your MacBook, on your Windows PC, you have the power to be able to actually sort of do that. On the learning, the idea is you have data inside your FileMaker system, and you want the LLM to actually kind of learn what's in that and be able to give you, in time, better information. So we're building stuff around fine-tuning and RAG, so terminology that more and more you'll get from us. Essentially, it's learning from your data, so that when you ask a question, you get more relevant information. And lastly, which is what I was saying at the beginning, we belong to Apple, everything has to be secure 100%. So data encryption is done all the way through, like we have in FileMaker. We can log pretty much everything that happens in the system, and then we control how much data can be sent from your FileMaker solution to an LLM engine to be able to actually learn what it has to do with it. So this summer, we're going to release FileMaker, Claris FileMaker 2025. So the version will be FileMaker 22. It's going to have a lot of things that we're working on. One of the things that we're working on as well is around this sort of the T-shaped diagram that we've actually been showing quite a bit now, where we position all the various types of the products inside the Claris platform. So you have FileMaker, which is really good at doing internal-facing solution. The idea is to make it easier for data between FileMaker and Studio to work together, because Studio has the power to be able to be used by millions of customers at any one time, and the whole system is based that you can send data to the outside, create forms, dashboards on it really quickly, and be able to leverage that. And then we have Connect, basically is how the data gets moved in the system. So some of the work I've been doing is around the data hub in the middle. How do we we get the whole data system to work properly together? And inside the FileMaker, we have an API for OData. So OData is the Open Data Protocol. It's a replacement of ODBC. It allows different systems to actually talk to one another really powerfully. The one thing with OData that's really cool is it can create tables inside the FileMaker. It can create fields. It's not to the point that it can create scripts on its own, but it can do other things. And so we're going to leverage that to be able to actually get data flowing from FileMaker to Studio through Connect really easily. Which means that in the future we'll have data record triggers. We make a change to a field in a record, we can get that information to be sent to a server without you doing anything in the background. So in Studio, we've actually been making quite a lot of improvements. We've embedded iframe, so it's easier for you to be able to leverage a form that you create inside of Studio and to use it in a web viewer inside the FileMaker. We've been working heavily to be able to make it easier to log in with any type of external authentication, whether it's AWS, Microsoft, or any type of system out there. For Connect as well, we created a new Studio connector so that the flow of data between Connect and Studio work better, and we've done another one as well on the FileMaker side, so it's easier for customers to be able to get script triggers and action to actually work between FileMaker and other systems really quickly. So before I sort of do a couple of Q&A, I'm just going to do a quick demo of semantic find, because there's a lot of time we talk about it, and in a lot of cases, sometimes people are not really sure how easy to do. So this is a solution that we've actually built. It's a FileMaker server. It's a database. It's running on a server in AWS in France, and it's basically just a library of images. So it's got 25,000 images inside the system, and the idea was to be able to show really quickly to people how does semantic actually search works, and how it's going to change the way that I actually do queries inside the FileMaker. So currently, when you actually sort of do queries in FileMaker, the tendency is actually to look for keywords or for words inside the field. And for that, you have to use the index. So when you have large databases with a lot of keywords, sometimes it's really hard to find what you're looking for. And the thing is, on top of it, you have to actually type it the right way. So if you do spelling mistakes, it's not going to find them. And you have to do it in a language in which the keyword was actually sort of typed. The difference with semantic search, the way it works, is we take, in this instance, we take the image that we have in here, we send it to a large language model that runs on my server locally, and it's going to transform that image into what we call a vector embedding. So vector embedding is actually just numbers that could basically be context of what the image represents. And so inside it, there's going to be a lot of information. So for this image you're looking on the screen, it basically knows it's a grizzly bear, but it knows that basically there is grass in the background. It knows that it's nature. It knows that it's outside. It basically knows a lot more information. So that when you start asking questions to the LLM saying is, in those 25,000 images, can you find different stuff? It's going to basically look around. So the one example that I always do, the first one, which is the easy one, and there's so many of them in Istanbul, is, I'll do quickly. So basically what it's looking for is the reservoir of the kitten. So it knows the kitten basically is a cat, but it's a small cat and stuff like that, and it's going to look around. When I actually sort of do the query to the server, I actually have the power now to be able to control exactly what I want to come back. When you do an index search, it gives you all the results, which is why when you have a lot of entry, it's really slow sometimes. The difference with semantic search is you're telling it exactly what you want to get back. So you can say, I only want 25 records to come back. So you can have a million results, it's only going to give you 25 results. And then the list of numbers that you have there is the similarity between what I've actually asked for and what I can find in the image. Because I'm using a model that is quite small, but it's a multi-language, in other cases it's going to be right. So even though the value is like 0.3, which is, so the scale is from 1 to 0, and then -1 is negative, anything between 0 and 0.1, 0.2 is basically not really sort of relevant. But then the closer you get to 1, the better the result. So in my case, basically, it was been able to actually find a kitten, and if I go through all the pictures, in most cases, I'm going to get a kitten. I can actually do spelling errors as well. Hopefully that will work properly. Because it's going to look in the engine and it knows that kitten without the E doesn't work, but it knows that basically there is a similarity with the proper spelling of it, and so it can actually do the same work in the background and give me the result on top of that. I can try, so I tried this morning, that was working. Get the H. So in most system is, in terms of the keywords I actually type, did I misspell it? It worked 5 minutes ago, sorry about that. Let's try it again. There you go. So basically, it's sending information. There is no Bosphorus keyword anywhere in my system. In most cases, no one will actually sort of type it. But in my case, I'm looking for that. Similarity is .9. As you can see, the image is pretty much 100% sure that it's basically across from the river, but the engine doesn't know that. It doesn't know what's really accurate, what from wrong. It only knows the context. So it's been able to actually find this because what it's been able to actually see is that in the background, there's potentially a mosque. It doesn't really know whether it's a mosque, but it thinks based on various sort of point information, that's where it should be, and there's a bit of water. So it's like, well, there's water, there's a mosque, it kind of can be there. It can be somewhere else completely. I mean, it can be a completely different country. But for the engine, that's what it thinks. And so the work that had to be done with semantic search is figuring out basically how the context is going to work, the quality of the information that you have, and what you want to do with it. And the more you start playing with it, the more stuff you can do with it. Once we have fine-tuning built inside it, you'll be able to actually tell exactly, okay, that question that I asked with that result is very accurate or completely opposite. And so the engine is going to learn from that system in the background. If I quickly show you basically in terms of the script step what we did, so pretty much all you have to do, oops, I need to share that because otherwise you won't see it. I share the whole screen, you do it that way. So at the top basically is you have the option to be able to actually log it, and it's kind of useful having the AI login, because when you go through the log, it's going to show you exactly what it's doing, like the information it's sending out, what the query is being sent to the LLM engine, and then you're going to be able to actually learn from that. So in my case, basically, all I have to do is connect to an AI account. I'm using a local endpoint, but I could be using stuff like OpenAI, Anthropic, Cohere, pretty much whatever the big three on the market. The more the big customers, sort of providers come out, we'll add them, but currently there's a bit of a war on who's going to stay alive and not. And essentially afterwards what I'm doing is actually creating the embedding. So that's the part of work that takes a bit of time at first. Whether you're taking text data or images, and then you're sending that to an engine that's going to create a vector embedding. So a list of numbers to represent that in dimensions. And then once I've got that work, try to do a zoom. So the semantic search basically is kind of a normal find, but you're telling exactly what you want to do. So you're saying is I'm going to basically do it by natural language. I'm going to ask a question to the engine. Then I basically set the account name, the model I'm going to use. So there's millions of models out there. You can decide what you want to use. So depending on the environment you're working on, you can decide which LLM you want to use. So if you're in the medical environment, you can use specific LLM that have been trained in medical data. Then you'll tell it basically is, this is the keyword that I'm looking for. You can tell it exactly how many records or through which file set you want to look at. You're sending it, this is information where the vector embedding is actually stored. The record count, so you can tell it, I only want 100 records to come back, or 1,000, it's really up to you. The similarity, basically, so how close are the results between what I'm asking and what I can find, and actually show you the stuff. The reason it's actually really quick is in the background, it's because it's only, like you can see, it's only bringing back record IDs. The fact that you can have database with millions of images within data, and it's going to be really quick, is the information that's been sent back from the server to the client is the record ID. it doesn't resend the whole table again, like you normally do when you have an index search. It's only sending the record ID, and then the local engine creates the table and say, for this 25 record, bring me the data back for this 25. So the speed of it is really going to change everything. And this is some of the work that a lot of you will actually work in the next few years, is kind of changing the way you do your searches. Index search isn't really dead for now, but semantic search will give you a lot more powers because you're going to be able to control exactly what information you want to come back, and all of that is going to be a lot quicker than before. So in order to actually sort of get your system running, a lot of requests that we have from customers was like, well, running a local server, LLM server, is actually a bit of a pain. I've got to go and figure out how to use Python, install the environment to run the LLM. That is a bit of work. And so we thought, well, our customers know how to use FileMaker gaming console, because everyone's got that. And so how about we actually build all of the stuff that you have to do manually through the command line inside the FileMaker server admin console. So we created basically this new tab called AI services, where really easily you're going to be able to install the LLM pretty much automatically. The only thing you have to do is download a file from GitHub called Miniconda, which is creates an environment in the background, and it kind of does everything for you. It's going to create an environment for the LLM to run, and then you can do whatever you want with it. Once you've actually got it running, then you can control it. If you want to download new models, you'll pretty much need a Hugging Face token. So Hugging Face is the big company that kind of shares all the models available on the planet. So they have a library of vaguely 2 million models, and it's the best place to actually find them. Everything is there, it's pretty much open source. So a few of them have got agreements, depending if you use the stuff from Meta or Google, but you'll be able to actually find anything that you want. And then you'll be able to actually control everything around the AI. How the RAG is going to work, the fine-tuning, pretty much everything. So once it's actually running, you can control the models that you actually want to run. So currently on my machine, I've got this four, so there's one, the top one is just a normal text embedding, so it's kind of multilingual, I can actually ask questions. The second one is the one I'm using for the images. And then you can use the one from Google to do text generation, where essentially you're going to ask questions on your system. So you could actually share the table of your contact database, and you can say, in that table, find me everyone that is in Istanbul. And the engine is going to grab the data with the table, it's going to create a SQL query in the background, and it's going to do the search for you and give you the result. And that's going to be really cool. The last one I have is a different one. So, and when you go to Hugging Faces, you can try pretty much everything that's out there and be able to do whatever you want with it. The last part is going to be the fine-tuning, so we'll come back to that. We are planning to do quite a lot of community live events on our website to be able to actually sort of train people on what is fine-tuning, how it can be used, and stuff like that. The idea at first is to do with partners that actually have use cases so that we can show the people, hey, this is what you can do with fine-tuning inside the FileMaker, and how it's going to allow you to actually be a lot better doing stuff. The final stuff that I talk about is around security. Again, we've always mentioned that. And with the launch of FileMaker 2024, we added support for the Let's Encrypt certificate, so free SSL certificate. And we want to make sure that globally everyone has secure system and can actually have an SSL certificate. In other cases, you have to actually pay them, and even if you try the Let's Encrypt, again, we have a blog on our website that explains to you the scripts that you have to run and the work that has to be done to get it to work. And people were going, it's kind of a bit of a pain, it takes time, I'm not taking enough, I don't want to do it. So we went around of going, well, let's create a button where all I've got to do is pretty much type in the domain name of my server. Oops, I used too many different keywords. And basically just go request, and that script does everything in the background. So it's going to talk to Let's Encrypt, 3480, it's going to bring back all the files that I need from Let's Encrypt, it's going to put it on my server, and then I'm going to have my SSL certificate. So it takes about 20 seconds, and it works every time. And then when you do renew, there's a button, you click on that, it just renews everything. Currently, we still have to actually restart a couple of servers, but there's a lot of work that we're doing in the background to be able to actually have kind of a server that really doesn't crash anymore. And there's a lot of cases where people have issues where the system crash. And so we've been working, and I'll quickly finish that, is on what we call persistent cache and some of the work that we do in the background to be able to make sure that a FileMaker server, even though when it's crashing, can actually restart on its own. So we're having different processes that basically look after one another. And so if the database engine crashes, we have a system to be able to create a persistent cache in the background and then quickly restart the database engine in the background without killing the client sessions and get them to go back on board without anyone noticing. And so the work that we're doing there is going to help us with the Let's Encrypt certificate. So next year, when everyone is on FileMaker 2025, there won't be any reason for anyone to go is we haven't got an certificate, because all you have to do is buy the domain name. So that's the only thing you'll have to buy. If you can't even buy that, then you're going to have issue. But essentially, it's pretty much that. You can buy a .com for $3 now. So pretty much everyone will have that. And once we have a more secure environment, then the whole story of, hey, Claris is a secure environment, we can trust it. Companies can actually go, well, FileMaker is not tool. Like, well, no, it's secure. It has all the database tools. It can do AI. It can do everything. So we're trying to actually stop this vision from a lot of companies that we are outdated and not significant enough for them. So I've overstepped my limit because I always talk too much. Do we have any quick questions while the next speakers get prepared? Anyway, I'll be around all day long, and I'll use the nice engine to actually understand what everyone's talking about. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Thanks. Any question or anything? If you have any questions, we have time for questions or not really? Afterwards.
You can have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Anyone got any questions? You can ask in Turkish, and the engine will translate for me, I hope. No? Cool. Okay, we can talk later. Thank you, everyone.